Hello. In this video, we uncover Mara Ellis's guide to peak productivity, delivered straight from her desk. She sits poised, demonstrating measured breaths and black coffee habits to sustain output. Yet, her knuckles pale on the planner, and her gaze flicks to a shadowed reflection. What she doesn't say reveals the chaos she fights to contain. Let's begin. The camera's red light blinks like a steady heartbeat, framing Mara Ellis in her minimalist apartment. She sits at a sleek desk, posture impeccable, hair pulled into a neat chignon that whispers control. The lens captures her in soft focus, a woman who could sell wellness apps with that poised tilt of her head. "Today," she says, voice even as polished stone, "I'm sharing my routine for peak productivity. It's about intention, small rituals that keep the chaos at bay." Her hands fold neatly in her lap, fingers tracing the edge of a planner, its pages crisp and unmarked. She leans forward slightly, eyes meeting the lens with the warmth of a trusted advisor. Start with breath work. Inhale for 4, hold, exhale. It grounds you. As she demonstrates, her chest rises and falls in measured rhythm. But beneath the table, her foot taps once, twice, a faint Morse code of unrest. The words flow. Coffee black, no sugar, a 10-minute journal to offload the mental clutter. Efficiency isn't about doing more, she continues. It's about sustaining output without the burnout myth. Her smile is practiced, lips curving just enough to convey competence, the kind that earns nods from strangers online. A mirror hangs on the wall behind her, angled to catch the shot. In its reflection, her face doubles. The foreground self-serene, selling the script, while the glass edge blurs into shadow, where her eyes narrow, pupils dilating against an invisible strain. The light from the window slices a tightrope across the frame, illuminating her jawline but leaving the corners of her mouth in dim tension. She pauses, script in hand, and for a split second, her gaze flicks to that mirrored double. "And when the day's weight creeps in," she adds, voice dipping almost imperceptibly, "you pivot, redirect, keep moving." The words dull the edge of something sharper, a fatigue coiling in her throat like unsaid smoke. Her fingers tighten on the planner's spine, knuckles paling. The camera holds steady, but inside, the mask presses inward, compressing the quiet ache she's named only in whispers to herself. Will the next breath carry it out, name the exhaustion aloud, before the facade fractures? As the recording fades, the morning light filters through half-drawn blinds in Mara's minimalist apartment, casting long, precise shadows across the hardwood floor. She sits cross-legged on a woven mat, eyes closed, palms upturned in meditation. Inhale, 4 counts. Hold, 4. Exhale, 4. Her posture is impeccable, a sculpture of composure. The app on her phone chimes softly, 5 minutes complete. She rises without a tremor, moves to the bathroom sink, splashes of cool water on her face, then the ritual of skincare. Serum dotted precisely on cheekbones, moisturizer smoothed in upward strokes. The mirror above the sink reflects her back. A woman in her 30s, hair pulled into a neat bun, skin glowing under the soft LED glow. Competent, capable. The kind of face that says, "I've got this." But inside, the voice whispers, unbidden. Last night, the ceiling stared back for hours. No dreams, just the weight pressing down, heavier each time. She pauses, fingertip lingering on her temple, but shakes it off. Next, the kitchen counter, laptop open, emails stacked like bricks, colleagues praising her latest project, a friend checking in with emojis of coffee and thumbs up. She types replies, fingers flying. "All good here, thanks. Let's catch up soon." Send. Each one a seal on the facade. Anxiety coils tighter now, a subtle hum beneath the rhythm. Her breath quickens just a fraction as she glances at the mirror again, hung in the hallway this time, full length, framing her in the act of dressing. Crisp blouse, slacks that hang just right. The reflection smiles back, practiced and warm. But the eyes? They flicker, shadowed, betraying the nights when sleep fractures into shards of memory. Aiden's voice, low and insistent, twisting her doubts into knots she can't untie. She straightens her collar, forces the smile wider. Routine holds it together, the inner voice insists, but it cracks. Does it? Or am I just delaying the unraveling? The apartment hums with normalcy, the distant traffic, the drip of the faucet. But her pulse races, a quiet alarm. Can she finish this? Meditation checked, face cleansed, inbox cleared, without letting the exhaustion speak, without the mirror finally showing the fracture beneath the polish. Later that afternoon, the apartment door clicked open with Jade's key, a familiar intrusion into Mara's meticulously ordered space. Sunlight slanted through the blinds, casting tightrope shadows across the minimalist living room. Clean lines, white walls, everything in its place. Mara stood at the kitchen island, folding a dish towel with deliberate folds, her back to the entry. She turned, smoothing her blouse, the motion automatic, a script she'd rehearsed in silence. "Jade?" Mara said, voice steady as polished glass. "You didn't have to buzz. Come in." Jade lingered in the doorway, her eyes scanning the room like a detective at a scene. She dropped her bag by the couch, arms crossing over her chest. "You look put together, as always." But her tone carried an undercurrent, probing. She stepped closer, gaze locking on Mara's face. "How are you, really? Not the Instagram version." Mara's pulse flickered, a faint stutter beneath the calm. She moved to the sink, rinsing already clean glass, the water's rush filling the pause. "I'm good. Busy but good. Work steady, and I finally nailed that meditation app sequence." The words flowed easy, a well-worn deflection, her reflection catching in the small mirror above the faucet. Eyes bright, smile practiced. But the jawline held too tight, a microscopic fracture in the facade. Jade followed, leaning against the counter, her presence a gentle pressure. "Mara, stop. I see it. The way you're gripping that glass like it's holding you up. Talk to me. What's eating at you?" The mirror reflected the shift, Mara's knuckles whitening just for a second, before she set the glass down with care. Inside, the assurance cracked, a whisper of fatigue seeping through the weight of unspoken nights pressing against her ribs. She met Jade's eyes, not in the glass, but direct. "It's nothing. Really, I'm handling it." But the words tasted hollow, the forced poise slipping at the edges like light fracturing through a flawed lens. Jade didn't back off, her voice softening but insistent. "Handling it alone? That's not you. Or it wasn't. Let me in, Mara. Please." Mara turned away, wiping her hands on the towel, the fabric twisting slightly in her grasp. The mirror watched her retreat, capturing the tension in her shoulders, the unspoken tremor. Could she name the anxiety coiling there without the whole careful world tilting? The question hung, unanswered, as Jade waited, the air between them thickening with what might yet break free. In the days that follow, the interview studio hums with a low, insistent light, a single beam slicing across Dr. Ellis Lyle's face like a tightrope stretched taut between shadow and revelation. Mara sits off camera, her fingers tracing the armrest, eyes fixed on the man who speaks with the precision of a surgeon dissecting silence. She's here as observer, not subject. Yet his words hook into her, pulling at the threads she's spent years weaving into invisibility. Suppressed trauma doesn't vanish, Dr. Lyle says, leaning forward, his voice steady, clinical. It rewires the nervous system. When we bury emotions, fear, rage, grief, the amygdala, that ancient alarm center, stays on high alert. Cortisol floods the body, etching pathways of hypervigilance. Over time, it's like programming a machine to run in survival mode. Heart races at whispers, sleep fractures into shards. The prefrontal cortex, our rational helm, dims under the strain. We think we're in control, but the body remembers what the mind denies. Mara's breath catches, a flicker of interest sparking in the dimness of her chest. She's read the studies, skimmed articles on quiet mornings when exhaustion blurred the edges of her routine. But hearing it framed this way, raw, biological, stirs something deeper. Her mind races. Is this why the mirror in her apartment shows a woman who smiles, but whose eyes pool with unspoken weight? Why Jade's casual, "How are you?" feels like a spotlight on a fault line? She shifts, resisting the pull. Admitting this means cracking the facade, letting the world see the exhaustion she's polished away. Control is her armor. Why trade it for this? But Dr. Lyle presses on, his beam of light unwavering. Naming it, voicing the trauma, reprograms back. It signals safety to the vagus nerve, calms the flood. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the reset button evolution gave us. The words land like permission, liberating yet laced with anxiety. A tremor in her core, as if the tightrope light now balances on her own spine. Mara imagines her nerves. Those hidden wires twisted by Aiden's barbs, years of swallowed hurts calcifying into isolation. For the first time, science doesn't rationalize her pain away. It validates it. A language for the ache she's called failure. As the camera lingers on Dr. Lyle's thoughtful pause, Mara wonders, can this knowledge finally unbind her tongue? Let truth walk the line without falling? Moments later in the same studio, Mara sits poised in the interview studio, her posture a flawless line. Shoulders back, hands folded in her lap like a practiced script. The room hums with sterile quiet, lights soft and even, casting no shadows that might betray her. She's just nodded along to Dr. Lyle's words off camera, his voice a steady anchor. Suppressed trauma doesn't vanish. It rewires the nerves, turns flight into freeze. She exhales, calm as polished glass, ready to speak her piece. But as the camera's red light blinks on, a sliver of illumination slices across the floor. A narrow beam from the half-drawn blind, taut like a wire under strain. It catches her eye, pulling her gaze downward. And there it is, the past uncoiling. Aiden's face overlays the present, his smile sharp as a hook. She's back in their dim apartment, not this bright sterility, the air thick with his cologne and unspoken demands. "You're overreacting," he says, voice low and reasonable. His hand on her arm, not quite a grip, but heavy enough to pin. She remembers the evening, dinner plates cleared, her recounting a rough day at work, and how he twists it. "If you loved me, you'd let it go. Don't make this about us." Her words, tentative then, curl inward like smoke. Silenced by the weight of his gaze, the way he frames her pain as the real problem. Bitterness rises now, unbidden, souring the calm she's armored in. Why did she swallow it? The question lingers, acidic. His manipulations weren't loud explosions, but slow drips, eroding her voice until silence felt like survival. The beam of light stretches, wobbling as she shifts in her seat. Jade's eyes meet hers from across the room. Her friend, perched on the edge of a chair, watching with that quiet insistence. The viewers, too, unseen but felt through the lens, bear witness to this fracture. Mara's throat tightens. The fear of speaking, she realizes in a rush, is his echo still, dictating her every measured breath. The studio's composure cracks, the narrow light fracturing into her reflection on the table's edge, calm facade splintering into something raw. Does she see it yet? How his shadow steers her choices, even here? The bitterness settles, heavy, urging her forward. Back in the apartment that evening, the apartment air hung thick, laced with the faint citrus of Mara's half-finished diffuser. Jade stood by the kitchen island, her fingers drumming a restless rhythm on the cool marble, eyes locked on Mara, who hovered near the sink, rinsing a single mug with mechanical precision. "You're doing it again," Jade said, voice low but edged, like a blade testing its sharpness. That smile, the one that says everything's fine while your hands shake. "Mara, what happened with Aiden? Really happened, not the polished version you feed everyone." Mara's grip tightened on the sponge, water sluicing over her knuckles. Frustration flickered in her chest, hot and unwelcome, a spark she hadn't let ignite in months. She set the mug down too hard, the clink echoing like a warning. "Jade, drop it. I'm handling things. Work's good, routines are solid. Why can't you just accept that?" Jade stepped closer, undeterred, her shadow stretching across the floor. "Because I see you fading, the way you flinch at loud noises, how you cancel plans last minute. This isn't handling, it's hiding. Tell me, let me in, before it eats you alive." The words clawed at Mara, pulling at the seams of her carefully stitched calm. She recoiled, turning toward the hallway, where the closed door to her bedroom loomed like a sentinel. Solid oak, painted a serene white, its latch a quiet promise of isolation. She wanted to cross that threshold, to shut it behind her and reclaim the silence that had always been her armor. Safety in the hush, where no one demanded the raw edges of her story. But Jade's gaze burned, refusing to yield. "You think keeping it locked up protects you? From what? Me? From the truth?" Mara's breath caught, frustration twisting into something firmer, a guarded resolve hardening her spine. She placed a hand on the doorframe, fingers tracing the edge but not pushing open. "Not yet. It's not about protection. It's about peace. If I open this, any of it, everything unravels. And I can't afford that. Not for you, not for anyone." Jade's shoulders sagged, the strain etching lines around her eyes, trust fraying like threadbare cloth. She didn't press further, but the air between them thrummed with the unspoken. Was silence a shield or a cage? Mara lingered there, hand still on the frame, the door unyielding as her will. The next morning, Mara stands in the dim glow of her minimalist apartment, the city hum filtering through the half-drawn blinds like a distant accusation. Her morning ritual, chilled water on her face, the precise sweep of a jade roller, lies abandoned on the vanity. The mirror above it catches her reflection. Porcelain skin, eyes edged with fatigue she spent years airbrushing away. Her hands, those steady architects of composure, betray her now. They tremble as she reaches for the phone propped on its tripod, the red record light blinking like a heartbeat she can't silence. "Just stop," the voice inside whispers, slick with habit. "Keep it tidy. They need you whole." The tremor climbs her fingers, a neural echo of suppressed storms, the kind Dr. Lyle described. Trauma etching fault lines in the brain's wiring, ready to crack under pressure. She imagines Jade's face, the friend who banged on that metaphorical door yesterday, demanding, "How long until you let me in?" And the audience, faceless yet expectant, waiting for the vlog that promises productivity, not this unraveling. But the pull is stronger, a raw urgency uncoiling in her chest. Mara presses her palm flat against the mirror, fingers splaying wide. The cool glass meets her skin, a boundary blurring. Her public mask staring back, fractured by the faint tremor rippling through her hand. In that touch, the lie fractures. Calm isn't safety. It's a cage. She exhales, the shake easing into something firmer, a deliberate grip. Fear doesn't vanish. It transmutes, fueling the resolve that straightens her spine. She steps back, nods to the lens. "I've been carrying this," she begins, voice a thread of silk over gravel. "The weight of pretending it didn't scar me." The words form unbidden, spilling past the threshold she's guarded so fiercely. No more rituals to hide behind. This is the pivot, the intentional breach. Jade will hear it later. The viewers too. A bridge from silence to something real, vulnerable. Healing, Dr. Lyle said, starts with naming it, biologically, inescapably. Yet as the confession builds, a shadow lingers. Will voicing this shatter the control she's clung to, or merely redefine it? Her hand lingers on the mirror's edge, pressing, as if testing the brake. Returning to the studio shortly after, the studio lights sliced a tightrope across the floor. A narrow beam that pinned Mara in place off camera, her face half shadowed. Dr. Lyle leaned forward in his chair, his voice steady as a scalpel. "Trauma isn't just memory, Mara. It's the body rewriting itself, nerves firing in loops of vigilance. To heal, you name it. Specifics. Not it happened, but what it did." She shifted, fingers twisting the hem of her blouse, the fabric a poor shield. The mirror on the far wall caught her, or what she wanted to be. Polished Mara, eyes clear, lips curved in that practiced half-smile. But the reflection fractured under the light. One side crisp, composed, the other blurred, eyes hollowed by nights she'd never admitted. A double, staring back, accusing. "Who are you pretending to be?" I can't just..." Her voice cracked, a whisper against the hum of the recorder. Resistance coiled in her chest, hot and familiar. "Say it," and the facade crumbles. "Keep quiet," and the poison stays locked inside. Dr. Lyle waited, his gaze patient but insistent. The camera's red eye, unblinking witness. "The words matter," he pressed. Could she live with that split no longer? Voice the ache without shattering? The question hung, unanswered, as the tightrope widened just a fraction. With the session concluding, Mara's hands trembled as she adjusted the camera tripod in the dim studio, the lens a cold eye staring back. The mirror on the wall caught her reflection, polished chin high, but eyes shadowed, like storm clouds pressing against glass. She exhaled, the air thick with unspoken weight, and hit record. "It started small," she began, voice steady as a rehearsed line. Aiden's words, wrapping around me like silk ropes. "You're overreacting," he'd say, after twisting a simple question into blame. I'd nod, swallow the knot in my throat because fighting meant chaos, and chaos meant losing the rhythm I'd built, my mornings, my quiet apartment, the illusion of control. Hidden anxiety coiled in her chest, a familiar vice, urging her to pivot, to smile and say, "But I'm fine now." Jade sat just beyond the frame, on the other side of the half-closed door, her silhouette a silent witness. Mara could feel her friend's gaze, probing, waiting. The door creaked faintly, as if protesting the barrier between them. He'd cancel plans last minute, then accuse me of being needy for caring. My boundaries? They eroded like sand under waves. I'd pretend it was nothing, plaster on that mask, work smiles, friend lunches, while inside, exhaustion gnawed. Sleep fled. My body rebelled with headaches, a constant hum of dread. Pretending preserved the peace, or so I lied to myself. But it was poisoning me, turning my safe world toxic. The words hung, pulling her deeper. Pain bloomed, not as a scream, but a raw unraveling. Liberating, sharp as light, piercing the muted room. In the mirror, her reflection fractured the facade. One eye wept what the other hid. Could she name it fully? The way his manipulations redrew her edges, left her hollow, without shattering the self she'd guarded. Aiden's ghost lingered in the tightrope of shadow across the floor. But voicing it now, for the camera, for Jade listening beyond the door, cracked the silence. The door trembled again, Jade's hand pressing from the other side, a promise of dialogue no longer deferred. Mara leaned closer to the lens, breath steadying into resolve. That's why I'm here. To stop the pretending. To let the hurt breathe. The mirror held her whole, flawed, real, questioning if preservation meant surrender or rebirth. In the aftermath, as the camera cuts, Mara's hands trembled slightly as she arranged the small altar on her coffee table. A notebook etched with fresh affirmations, a vial of grounding oil, and a single keychain shaped like a door. Her new talisman against the old locks. The minimalist apartment hummed with late afternoon light, filtering through half-drawn blinds, casting long shadows that danced like hesitant confessions. Jade sat on the edge of the couch, her eyes soft but insistent. The kind of gaze that had always pierced Mara's veil without a word. "Watch this," Mara said, her voice steadying as she lit a candle, the flame flickering like a pulse quickening. She uncapped the oil, dabbing it at her wrists, inhaling deeply, the scent of lavender cutting through the knot in her chest. Anxiety coiled there, a familiar serpent whispering that this vulnerability was a crack in the armor, that Jade might see the raw edges and pull away, just like Aiden had when she dared to speak. But Mara pressed on, action her anchor. She opened her notebook, reading aloud. "Today, I name my limits. No more swallowing silence to keep the peace." Jade leaned forward, nodding. "Show me more. The real stuff." Mara rose, crossing to the hallway where the door to her study stood ajar. A deliberate choice, no longer barricaded. She pushed it wide, the hinges sighing softly, revealing the space inside. Shelves lined with therapy journals, a yoga mat unrolled like an invitation. "This," she said, gesturing, "is where I set my boundaries now. Not walls, but doors I choose to open. For you, for me. No more hiding behind the mask." Her heart raced, the old fear surging. Would this honesty demand justifications, apologies for the mess of her healing? But as Jade stood and stepped through the threshold, her hand brushing Mara's arm in quiet solidarity, the tension eased. Relief bloomed, warm and tentative, like sunlight breaking through clouds. They sat together in the study, the open door framing them in shared light. And Mara promised, "From now on, we talk straight. No filters. Your turn next." Jade smiled, the room feeling larger, less like a cage. Yet, in Mara's mind, the question lingered. Could she keep offering these gestures of care, raw, unadorned, without the crutch of old excuses?